Thank you, and welcome to the podcast with Good Medicine. It is April 2024, and today I'm going to talk about a YouTube personality that I came across by Quazi Johir. Now, I may be mispronouncing his name, but let me spell it for you. Okay, Quazi, Quazi. This is the first name, last name Johir. And so what I'm doing is right now I'm looking here on the internet and we're going to go to his LinkedIn site. And let me look that up real quick. Okay, it's called realitycreator.com. And it says Quazi Johir, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, United States, his contact info. And he's at realitycreator.com. So let's go over to Reality Creator and get a quick glimpse of that. Okay, realitycreator.com, how to master your reality by mastering yourself. And he has, it looks like, 3 categories. First one is Reality Creator Academy, which says Reality Creator Academy is for beginners on the journey who want to master the fundamentals of reality creation alongside a community. Then there's RM, which is Reality Mastery. Reality Mastery is our flagship program designed for entrepreneurs who want to scale to 6 figures and beyond through mastering the art of identifying shifting. And then there's Transcendence Mastermind, which is coaches and experts who want to make $100K per month profit by learning how to use YouTube Organic. So anyway, I've listened to Quazi, and one of the things I think that his whole thing is based around The Secret. And I wrote him a little letter, which I'm going to read here, if I can find it. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Okay, I found the letter that I wrote to Quazi. It's quite long, and I'm going to read it out. And I think in this letter, it's going to probably touch a lot of the points of why I strongly disagree with Quazi. He's another one of these mini YouTube gurus, personalities that has arisen, that is teaching these new age spiritual things that have a great deal of popularity. And by the way, if you don't know what The Secret is, it was a book written by I think Rhonda Burns back in around 2008, somewhere like that. And there's a video you can go on YouTube and type in The Secret. And basically The Secret is this concept that you can manifest everything, because at the very base, everything in the universe is vibrations. And it's a matter of just getting your mental mind into the right vibrations, and then from there you can manifest everything. And so Quazi is really, his whole mastery.com thing is really centered around this concept to some degree. And so, when I first listened to Quazi, I liked him. He's a very likable guy. I think he's from India. That's what it looks like, of Indian descent. Very well spoken, very intelligent, smart guy. Presents very well. Very professional. Apparently he's probably doing pretty good with his website and his mastery program, I'm sure. The thing is I really take issue with a lot of these guys, because my central thing is about seeking truth and doing what works. I'm a very pragmatic type of person. And I think people like Quazi are really misleading people in the wrong direction, where I'm more about doing that which works, which I don't think The Secret is. This is a concept that I find myself more and more at odds with. The more I learn about it, the more I hear about it, the more I think about it. It certainly does go against a lot of my underpinning philosophies and ways of thinking. And as a result, I am certainly swimming against the stream. in the larger, I guess, social milieu, the social um, popularity, because I'm saying forget the secret. So anyway, here is the letter to Quazi. All right, it starts out, Quazi, I just came across your YouTube channel and I was drawn to it because I've had very lifelong interest in spirituality. And when I say lifelong, I mean from my very first memories of 2 or 3 years old. I can remember clearly having had this sense that I had lived before. And this was at about the age of 3, long before the concept of reincarnation was ever introduced to me. I can remember also having feelings that there were unseen entities around me. Once again, I had no concept of spirits, ghosts, or unseen entities. I could just feel them. Had many other strange experiences as I grew up. I even had a super close encounter with UFO. It came within 20 feet of me, so I know what I saw and experienced. I can remember from the earliest age pondering the deep questions of life and later becoming interested in religion and philosophy. You could say my knowledge of both topics is above average. Having a true and sincere interest in finding God, finding truth, I must say I am deeply disappointed with the many so-called gurus. For some reason, a phrase comes to mind when I hear all these liars, and there seem to be no end to their numbers, which is this: they are not like me. Yes, the field of spirituality, religion, self-help, and the like are overflowing with deception. When I think of the words of Jesus, take heed that no man deceive you, I think he was not kidding, because the deceivers are at every corner. The world overflows with them. Not only are they not like me, it is as if they are not even human, as if they have a different spirit than us. I have had many conflicts with them, some very bitter and unfortunately violent. In every case, they were the ones instigating the violence, and I was always on the defensive. But that is another story. Quazi, the reason I'm writing you is because I have some tough questions for you. I can tell instantly you are not like those of the predator class that routinely deceive. Now, I could be wrong here. I believe you are sincere and honest about what you teach, study, and you truly care about going to the next level spiritually. Once again, I could be wrong. It seems you have even made some progress in that area firsthand. Good for you. So let me start with what seems to be the central theme in today's spirituality: the secret. I know you have no explanation. I know you need no explanation, but let me tell you in my own words the way I see it. The secret is that all creation is really vibration, and it is scientifically. And all we have to do is align our thoughts, our feelings, our hearts, our minds with what we desire and want, and it will manifest itself. Basically, what you focus on is where you move towards. And there's some truth to this. You are the creator of your reality. So much so, many in the field actually say we plan our lives out in detail before we incarnate into this life. You seem to echo a lot of this sentiment. Well, I am torn, because it is true, we are masters of our fate. Yet I find we are also victims of circumstances beyond our control. What I'm saying, there is evidence for both positions, which makes it paradoxical. It is as if at the core of everything, it is a paradox. You can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and focus on exactly what you want and even manifest it in exact detail. My daughter, who has Down syndrome, can't do such a feat, regardless of what you say or teach to her. Do you think every Jew could have simply escaped the Holocaust by manifesting a different reality for themselves? It's absurd. They could not. Could every slave throughout history avoid slavery? Imagine a life where you are totally subservient and subject to every kind of abuse with no possible escape. You live and die a slave, and all your prayers are met with silence. Quazi, in my philosophy, there are limits, meaning we have limits placed upon us, some more so than others. To give you some personal examples, let me say this. I've always loved singing, but I can't sing, and I have always known it and have been reminded often I can't sing. Well, I thought all I have to do is practice, work hard, learn the right methods from the experts. Yes, just focus on it and work hard. Well, sadly, I still can't. Why can't an 8-year-old sing so beautifully and I can't with the best of efforts? Just where is the secret? I have a good mind and can read Kant and other great philosophers and understand them right away. I was often asked to work in the mechanical field, but I knew that I could understand it all in one shot and score high on any written test. But when it comes to actually doing it, well, it never works out so well in spite of my best efforts. Once again, the secret is of no help. And here's my problem with the secret and its similar teachings. It says we are totally responsible for our success, which means by default we are totally responsible for our failures. My inability to sing or be good at mechanics is really all my fault, is it? I did not believe enough? Multi-level marketing, like Amway, are really advanced money transfer scams and systems set up for massive failure no matter how hard one works. The vast majority will fail. And what do they say when you inevitably fail? They blame it all on you. You failed to manifest it. You failed to believe and to focus on where you wanted to be. A coworker of mine had a sister who was dying of cancer, so she went on an international whirlwind tour to find a cure. She ended up in Brazil giving thousands to this man by the name of John of God, only to end up dying there. Getting her body back from Brazil was a nightmare for the family, as they were forced to overpay to get her home. Don't you love it? They just have to fleece you at all levels. Well, according to the likes of John of God, the reason she was not healed of cancer was because of something she failed to do. She failed to have the faith of a mustard seed and to move mountains, to heal herself or to allow God to heal her. God is all powerful. Why didn't he just heal her? I've suffered from migraines my whole life. Why can't I heal myself, or why can't God just heal me? Why are my prayers answered with silence? Why does one win the lottery and another one get killed by a stray bullet? Why is one child born into wealth and another born into a world where they starve to death? Why isn't this secret working for those in the most unfortunate circumstances, like the third world? The numbers do not lie. And by the way, I love numbers because math, numbers, are foundational to all creation. And here's what the math says over and over. Most people who grew up like myself in very unfortunate circumstances do not fare well long term. And most people who grow up well-to-do end up doing well. Of course, there are exceptions to both sides, but they are exactly that, exceptions. So why does this math keep repeating itself consistently? What is foundational to your teachings, and tell me if I'm wrong here, is the reason you are not succeeding financially or otherwise is because you are either ignorant of some truths or doing something wrong, and once you learn what to do, then you will create your dream life. This is not totally false, and it is not totally true. I say this because I seek truth. I sincerely seek truth and ask every day that God give me truth. At some level, it seems to be working, and the truth is that there are limits and everyone is not the same. My daughter who has Down syndrome is not going to write like Shakespeare or have insights like Einstein. Just like I'm not going to be a professional singer regardless of how much I learn or practice. The truth is that reality is very complex and not black and white. What I see is that all these gurus, some well-meaning and some outright frauds, telling us this partial truth of the law of attraction. As someone who cares about real truth and about really helping my fellow man, I must confront this issue head on. I do not know if you heard of R.J. Spina. And by the way, I'm going to be talking about him in a later podcast. He is amazing and wonderful, and I like him a lot. I read his book on self-healing and even took one of his internet courses and have watched many YouTube videos. Lots of fascinating information there. Anyway, I wrote a similar letter to RJ expressing my concerns and doubts about this law of attraction, as well as some other New Age teachings I'm suspicious of. Well, I have not heard back from RJ on these matters. Maybe an answer is coming, but I am not going to hold my breath, as I know the truth is like a snowball that has a better chance in hell than anyone taking time to answer my tough questions. And by the way, RJ still hasn't responded, and it's been well over a year. It appears to me your core teaching is the law of attraction with some add-ons, and what I would say is that I think and believe, of course I could always be wrong, that this core teaching is flawed and even a bit dangerous and misleading. When I look into the world and see what is before me, I see this teaching does not align with reality. That would be the teaching of the law of attraction. Let me say someone wants to be a billionaire. Well, according to this core teaching of the law of attraction, they should be able to manifest this. But here is the problem, and a big one at that. What if everyone wants to be a billionaire? Can all 8 billion people on earth do it? You know the answer. We all know the answer. So that means the vast majority of people who attempt to manifest becoming a billionaire will never do it. Why? Really, I ask why. There are only about 2,100 billionaires on earth, and I do not foresee there being 1 million anytime soon. Even with all these teachings of the great gurus who say they can, theoretically you can, realistically you can't. Can you explain this gap between theory and reality? And it's not just being a billionaire, pick any topic. Not everyone is going to be a professional baseball player, a rock star, a movie star, or anything else. And the reason for it are extremely complex and vary from person to person. Some people just don't have what it takes. Just like success is not totally dependent upon the sole actions of the individual, there are a lot of factors outside of them that assist them, things they had no control over. There are people who do everything the so-called great gurus say and still fail. Why? There are people who do not do the exact same things a super successful person does, and they still fail. Why? Yet some do succeed. Why them and not the other? I can't tell you. It is beyond me, but there is right there in front of our face an observable reality. The law of attraction does not work 100% of the time. Why? Actually, I have no idea how much it does work or does not work, but I do know it is not 100%. Then there are countless ads on YouTube saying the reason the secret did not work is because, well, and there are many reasons why they list, but it all comes down to you doing something wrong. You're failing to get it right, and you need to buy their course to get it right. So when you and others teach that it will work for everyone, I was wondering if you ever dawned on you that it doesn't work 100% of the time, or have you bought into it so much so you never thought about this? Can I suggest that maybe the law of attraction does not work? Quazi, there is a Buddhist teaching which is called right vocation, a teaching I take to heart, meaning that in order for us to advance spiritually, we need to pick the right vocation. As there are many vocations that hurt our fellow man and the earth, even though it may help us, there are countless examples. I do not sell alcohol and drugs because they harm others. Yes, I could make lots of money doing so, but I am committed to the concept of right vocation. I do not get involved with MLMs because I know it is a money transfer scheme and I can't bring myself to harm others like that. I am not an assassin or a mob muscle man or a TV preacher, so on and so forth. So I don't involve myself with things that are going to harm other people. If you know or realize that the law of attraction is flawed as it is taught, or maybe it does not work, don't you think it would be the wrong vocation to keep teaching such a thing? Now, I'm not saying it's totally wrong either, but it certainly is not totally right. The discrepancy is worth noting and pointing out. I am leaning to the ideal it does not work, and what one really needs to do is simply engage in time and effort to be successful at anything. Success of any sort is a multi-factor, meaning that some factors are up to us and others are outside our control. The law of attraction as taught by many gurus today leaves the general public with the impression that we can do anything, nothing is possible, as if there are no limits upon us. My response is that if this is the case, then why doesn't every Jew simply remove themselves from the Holocaust? Why doesn't every third world poor person become rich? Why doesn't everyone just live forever by attracting good health and curing every ailment? Why has every slave throughout history not simply saved themselves? It is as if we are being taught the physical universe is like a computer algorithm. All we have to do is reprogram it, and then we can do anything. Maybe some deity that is beyond the physical realm can manipulate things in such a fashion. It can perform all kinds of miracles beyond what we can perform. I don't understand the workings of the universe. Maybe there has to be limits in the physical realm. Direct observations tell me there are limits. I know that for sure. And the best any of us can do is work creatively within those limits set by the universe. Some have more options, some few. It is as if the universe may be rolling for you or against you, and you are simply on the ride. Here's another issue I have with something you teach, that being the law of letting go. In short, if we desire something and keep thinking about it and it does not come, the solution is just to let it go. Then, by some unknown workings of the universe, it appears in our life. You gave the example of a friend who was looking for a female mate and then just let it go. Then, he found the love of his life and now has 2 beautiful children. I've heard this law of letting go in one form or another over the years, and I have tried it. As a matter of fact, even totally forgetting what I desired and not giving it a second thought. Then 6 months later, something out of the blue reminded me of what I had desired, and then I realized that this letting go did nothing to make my desires come to pass. So there are examples where letting go seems to work and examples where it has not worked. So which is it? This reminds me of the graph that shows cheese consumption and people dying by getting tangled in bed sheets are connected phenomenon. What it really says is that the correlation does not equal causation. And this is the same thing with the law of letting go, making a connection where none exists. Just because someone let go does not mean that caused their desire to appear. It may have came about because of many complex factors and letting go had nothing to do with it. But this law of letting go has a contradiction with the teaching of today's gurus, which is one of your teachings, which is this. In order to get what you want, you must focus on what you want because what you think about is what you attract. In short, the law of attraction. On the other hand, you focus on your desires, and on the other, you forget about them, and both are paths to getting what you desire. Can you explain this contradiction? He can't. Another problem with the law of attraction is that it gives teachers of it an automatic out. If things do not work out, then the student can be blamed for not applying the law correctly. In addition, the law of attraction can lead one to believing they can do something they can't. Case in point, there was a Chinese actor who was moderately successful and actually on his way upwards in the acting career, but he shifted gears and attempted to be an MMA fighter in the UFC. It was a disaster for him. He lost every fight in the first round. Someone should have told him to stick with what he was being successful at and not to continue pursuing something he kept failing at. His thoughts and feelings were aligned with being a great fighter, but it still did not work out. It was just not his thing. Not everyone can do everything. Some people are suited to be a surgeon, some not. Why is it like that? I have no idea. But there it is. I wonder if you have ever thought of this, of the ideal that everyone who follows your advice will not succeed. Just whose fault is that, and why would that happen? Quazi, I think you have a lot of good things to say, so I'm not disregarding you wholesale. I think there are flaws with some of the things you teach, as well as others who set themselves up as teachers in this New Age movement. And the term New Age is something I do not use because it is exactly what it is, but it is the best term I can come up with to fit similar teachings together. I'm calling some of your core teachings into questions and doubt, and here's what I think will happen. Most likely nothing. The reason I say that is because I have sent similar letters to others and exactly as I expected, no response. I'm not surprised by this. A few years ago, I set up what I call the Devil's Pulpit, inviting all kinds of ideologies to come and tell us what they think, with one caveat. They were going to be asked some tough questions afterwards. Guess what happened? No one would show up. They all told me a myriad of excuses. The reason is because if they can't control the message, then they don't want to present it. Out in the public, they're all willing to have me come to their place, and they were very vocal about what they felt was the truth. But why would they not come to be grilled by the devil? If they were all that in a bag of chips, then step up to the plate and answer some tough questions. Quazi, I have always prayed to God to gives me love and truth. I sincerely care about truth, and I think that a discussion as to why I think Maybe you may be wrong or right or somewhere in between is important because it is by a dialectical banter that we grow and learn. I want to leave you with something I think is important. I believe success is what the individual determines is success. In today's world, money is seen as the barometer of success. There is an unhealthy obsession with wealth and money. Keep this in mind. The late great spiritual teacher Yogananda said, "We did not come here to make money. That is worth pondering. God willing, I will hear from you. May the love of God be with you. Sincerely and Godspeed, Steve Elliott, St. Louis, Missouri." Okay, that concluded the letter. Hopefully, if you listen to that letter very carefully, you will see that I'm asking him some very tough questions. And this has been over a year. Quazi has not responded to me at all. Just like George Bruno did not respond to me. Okay, RJ Spina has not responded to me, and we're going to get to him in a little bit here in another podcast. And there have been other great gurus who have not responded to me. So why the silence? And this is something for you all to ponder. Now, I really attack this whole idea of secret, and I am actually pretty kind to Quazi in this, not calling him a fraud or a bad guy or anything like that. But I'm beginning to rethink this in the sense that if he's teaching something like The Secret, which is really the core of his whole program, and you're paying for it, right? That if it is so flawed, you're really basing the whole foundation is bad. It almost reminds me of when Jesus talked about building your house on a good foundation. It's as if Quasi's foundation, as nice sounding and as spiritual sounding as it is built upon sand, which is The Secret. And he's not the only one out there that is promoting this. So I am, you could say, kind of on I wouldn't say warpath or crusade, but more of a confrontation with truth. I don't think, and I'll tell you, I don't think these people will respond to me because I am questioning maybe the whole core of what their foundational belief system and money-making system is based upon. I mentioned something in there in the letter which is worth repeating, okay, which is the ideal that success is based on time and effort and not trying to meditate yourself into some perfect vibrational state and manifest everything you want, because clearly, this is magical thinking, and not everybody's going to be a billionaire or, a rock star or movie star or you name it. There are clearly limits that you cannot go beyond. Someone who's born with, cerebral palsy and can barely walk is not going to run in the Olympics. It's not ever going to happen. Even medical science can't get it to happen. So, this is the kind of magical thinking that I think is really hurting people. Why all these videos, again, they come out and say, well, The Secret failed, it didn't work for you because, and they list a lot of reasons. The latest one I heard was there's one particular brainwave pattern that daily life prevents you from having, and therefore if you can get into this particular, I don't know what it is, delta wave or whatever, you can then manifest and be the super wealthy and whatever you want to be. But I think that if you notice that what I'm talking about is being pragmatic, doing what works. For example, let's say you want to learn another language. You may have difficulty learning that language, but I think if you speak that language 1 or 2 hours a day, every day, in 6 months, you'll be able to have some proficiency in speaking that language. But that doesn't require The Secret. That requires time and effort, lots of failure, right? Imperfections on the path to get there. I'm doing these podcasts and I go back and listen to them and I notice there's imperfections in things I say. I have ums and ahs in there. And if you notice something, I'm not actually coming in here and editing anything or trying to make it perfect. Um, and I know there are a lot of people that actually do. They take a lot of time, and it's very nice and professional to do that. But I'm just trying to put these podcasts out, see where I make mistakes, and then make adjustments and not say so many ums or pauses and other things in my speech. I'm just trying to improve as I go and learn as I go. I'm not trying to start out perfect. I'm not trying to be popular or make money on YouTube and all that stuff. And I'm going to conclude here because really the whole reason I'm doing this is to build something bigger than myself, which is a home for disabled adults, and I'm going to call it Soccer Home. Since my daughter has Down syndrome, I want to build a home, a high quality home, where people who are mentally disabled can be taken care of. They clearly can't use the secret to go out there and be successful and overcome their mental retardation and other mental disabilities. They require help on us. And I think in society, historically, we have put them in what I call asylums and warehouses, which have been just total nightmares. And of course, on the other extreme, you had it where the Nazis and the eugenics program was simply to euthanize them, or what I should say, better say, murder them in mass. And those type of solutions are abhorrent. And so my whole ideal is that, they're mentally disabled, but they're part of us. My daughter's a part of me. And I love her. I love those people. And therefore, I think I want to create a very nice living situation for them and treat them with dignity and respect, which they deserve. Even because they can't be functionally productive in society like the rest of us, doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to take care of them and do that. So this whole thing on my podcast and everything is not to be perfected and to sound good, the best. And of course, I'm going to try to always be better and do a good job. But I'm not trying to be this perfectionist and with all the right graphics and the right sound. And, that's great. If you can do it, by all means, do it. But it's really to promote truth, to help you out, and to help out my grandiose project that I don't even know if I can succeed at doing, is what I'm going to do. And if you notice something I say quite often in these podcasts is I could be wrong. So some of the things I'm saying, my assessments of Quazi or George Bruno or whoever it is, they could be wrong. And certainly I'm willing to be corrected and willing to listen to criticism. I'm not going to be deleting any comments on YouTube. Say whatever the hell you want. And, of course, there's always the troll aspect out there and the negative people. Look, those people, I don't even really waste time on them. They are how they are, and the best thing to do is ignore them. As they say, never shoot downward. So, I'm just not even going to deal with these people. But coming back to Quazi, I recommend you go check him out. Think for yourself. I'm not telling you to agree with me. I'm a big believer in one should think for themselves. But I think that as critical thinkers, as independent thinkers, as free thinkers, we have to question these things. As Socrates had said, the only life worth living is the well-examined life. And if we just go out here and we accept Quasi's theory of the secret and manifestation and all these spiritual gurus at face value without questioning them and asking them tough questions, then we aren't doing as Socrates says, examining our life well, because their effects, I think what I said, even though I have no popularity, I don't have money, I'm nothing, right? I think what I'm saying is actually better than what they're saying. That you should put time and effort into being successful. Find out what you're good at, focus on that, and put time and effort into it, and go from there. If you can't run, then by all means don't waste your time running. But if you can do computer programming well and you like it, you should invest time and effort in that, and that is a path to success, not these expensive programs with Quazi and all these other great spiritual gurus. And one last thing before I leave here is that here I am. I am here just like I was with the Devil's Pulpit. If any of them want to question me, or you want to send this podcast to them and they want to challenge me or have me on, and whatever the deal is, I am here. I am not hiding from anybody. I am not trying to be confrontational with them. I'm just trying to say, listen, I have some tough questions. Can you answer them? And, most of the time they can't. There was a guy I like a lot on YouTube, CoffeeZilla. He's kind of in the vein I am of, and he deals with people who are fraudulent and who are stealing money. And sometimes he has people on, and I think he goes a little easy on them if you ask me. But there's very rare people that will answer tough questions. And every now and then he'll get a one or two that will. And honestly, none of them really stood up to the questioning. They all miserably failed because they were frauds, liars, and thieves. At the end of the day. And he called them out. And I think I would have been a lot tougher on them than he was. I think he was trying to be nice so they didn't just abandon ship and leave and close down. But so I think he was trying to, strike a fine balance there. But, people that are stealing money from you and lying, I think need to be confronted head on and rather toughly. And if they want to run, then, well, that says a lot about them, doesn't it? So anyway, that is concluded there. I want to thank you again for listening, and I will get more information about Soccer Home. Thank you. Bye.